I had a girl that paid for half of her book to get done. We were doing sessions every week. She got to a part of her life and she said, I just can't talk about it. I said, that's why I told you in the beginning that this may have been the lead to a journal. You may want to heal first. Forgive some of those people in your life. Get over some of those situations. Then come back and write it. Because right now, you're stuck.
Hey, sweet women. Welcome to Elevate with Joanna. And I am here with a very dear guest of mine, Nanette, who is a palette of experience, life experience, compassion. She's a very cool entrepreneur. And I actually want to say that from the moment I met with her, I said, I need to interview this woman because she had a booth at an event and she felt just so genuinely interested in helping me. I asked her a couple of questions. I said, you know what? I think she'd be a great candidate for my YouTube channel that is all about empowerment. Nanette, who are you? How long have you been doing what you're doing and what drives you?
First and foremost, I'm a wife, a mother, a grandmother. I'm retired from the Department of Corrections in New Jersey. I've been retired now about 5 or 6 years. I retired as a sergeant. Within that department, of course, it's law enforcement, but I also did training for the people that were coming in and trying to get them acclimated to a brand new world of things that were going on. Upon retirement, I found out I had cancer and I had to go through the cancer journey, kind of, sort of, because as of September, I had been told that they didn't find any more cancer and that I would be on the 3-month scan for a whole year, and then it increases over time. However, I went through that journey where my cancer metastasized and went all through from the colon to the lungs to the pancreas, and I had to go through chemo and surgery and radiation. So I've been that route. You meeting me, you met me as I was coming back into, hey, I'm back. Because I retired to being a full-time author and speaker. So with that being said, I published 14 books. I have children's books, I have self-help books, and I have novels. And I all think they touch reality on all different levels. So that's what I do.
Only?
Yeah, that's what I do.
So what was the journey like when you were battling cancer? I mean, of course, this is a very, if it's too vulnerable, please, just let me know. But throughout your life, you have been, through like hardship, through career, you retired, you've done a lot of training other people. And I think it really does take a special mind, a special body, and the special energy to battle cancer.
Yes. I didn't know it until after. The type of mind and spirit that was needed, I didn't recognize it. Let me put it to you that way. I didn't recognize it. What I did recognize was some of the things that I questioned, some of the things that I said, oh, I don't want to do it that way. I don't want to be that type of patient. I didn't want to be, it is what it is. I believe in the higher being. I believe in God. And I just believe that you're put in certain situations either for your strength or to develop strength. So I looked at it as, okay, if this is a test and this is what God wants done, ironically, it's been in phases. When I left New Jersey, or when I was trying to leave New Jersey, I went to the doctor just to get transcripts to move to North Carolina. And the doctor just simply said to me, he didn't know what I was coming for. I told him I wanted my medical records, but he didn't know what really was going on. So he said to me, well, wait, if you're moving to North Carolina Leave yourself some space and time where you can go get your transcripts from all your doctors, but please get a last checkup with all of your doctors, because you don't know how long it's going to take when you transfer.
Isn't that
Wise
amazing?
thought. Wise thought. And that's what I'm saying to you. After I went through this, I had to go back and look at all of these wise thought moments that, had it not been, because I wasn't in any pain. It wasn't time for me to go to the doctor. I didn't have any signs or symptoms. I had nothing. So in going to the doctor, they found a polyp and they said, well, wait a minute, we got to test this polyp. And then the result came back and they said, well, you can't move because you have an aggressive cancer and we need to get you in treatment right away. You need a surgery. These are the possible things you need to have done. Well, I couldn't do that because the truck was coming on Saturday. So I couldn't say, what am I going to do? But this medical team that I had in New Jersey, between the primary care doctor, the colonoscopy doctor, and the surgeon, they said that they went to school in the South. So they contacted doctors they knew to find out where I was going, to find out what doctors I could meet up with. And they built a team that I came into, which I thought was like, who does that? Point number 2.
Your angels
Point
did.
number 2. So I go through the first round of cancer and I didn't tell anybody. I just felt that why would I damper anybody else's mood? I don't want people surrounding me with the, I'm just not.
You did all your children?
I told my children and my husband, and that was about it. As far as reaching out to friends and other people, I just told them I retired. I mean, that was a big enough change anyway. So most, how's your retirement? This thing, and how's your move? And then, how's your cancer? I didn't want that. So I didn't tell anybody. I didn't say anything. About 3 weeks into treatment, a nurse came up to me and she said, "Oh, you don't look good today." And that really made me angry. It gave me a negative feeling about the whole thing. I hadn't contacted any support groups or thought about getting in support groups. I had my own feelings to deal with. And it gave me a real negative. And I blurted out to her, I didn't retire to cancer. I went home and I thought about it and I said, you don't talk like that to people. You usually are not that type of person. That's not your spirit. That's not who you are. You need to check that because you don't know how long this journey is going to be. And by the way, you don't look good. So I'm talking to myself, but I'm talking in reality. This is how I live. I live in reality. So I sat down and I thought about it, and it was true. I had not been eating. I had not been sleeping. I had not been writing, something that I do every day. I had not done any of that. So I was not myself. I was out of sorts. And I wound up writing a book called Managing Your Madness. From that, and then in that, I thought about it and said, well, what does God want? I mean, I understand I've been given these little angel tips along the way to help me get to this point. But what is it that he really wants? And I decided that it might have been a voice for some people that don't hear that voice that says, hey, you can get beyond this. You can. And that was what I said to her. I didn't retire to cancer. And my son said, hey, let me make some shirts for you that say I did not retire to cancer. And I said to him, no, I can't sell those shirts because everybody has not retired. He said, no, Ma, they don't retire to cancer. And I said, oh, okay. So now part of my writing and the things that I do, I always advocate for the fact that cancer it's a devastating thing, just like all diseases are. But if we don't talk and we don't advocate. We can't seclude ourselves and say, "Oh, I'm a cancer patient." It's almost like the Special Olympics. When you see the Special Olympics and you see the people with all the disabilities that they may have, but they're so excited about being able to be looked at for the sport that they're in and being awarded for whatever the participation that they take. Well, we've got to be that voice and that participant. Be a participant in it. Don't sit back and let it take over you. Be that participant in saying, well, what does that medicine do? How does that medicine do? What can I take naturally? What else do I need? Be a participant in it and help yourself, even if you're living along with it. You do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I want to take a little break and say, I had no clue where this conversation was going to go. I didn't know Nanette to the level that she's described so far. And the more she speaks her truth and about her struggles and about all of us being participants and being the creators of our reality instead of, living in survival mode, the more my heart, I literally physically feel that my heart is expanding more and more, because probably what you don't know, Nanette, about me is that this is a brand new channel that I feel like I was called to create. And, being a businesswoman, I own a real estate company. I opened this life coaching business last year. Again, I felt like I was being called. Also stepping into intuitive energy healing very soon. I feel who I want to interview. And I've been actually dealing with some interesting things. I remember I told you I was like, I wanted to interview you quite a while ago, and I was also sick myself, and I also had the opportunity to speak with a lot of people. And overall, I feel that there's a lot of women out there that are going to listen to you and take note of, this is exactly the goal for me. And as I said, I feel like my heart is expanding with, it's almost like you feel like you're growing wings.
Yes.
And you feel like, because you're giving so much from your story, you're telling people, and you could save lives. We save lives through a conversation like this. It takes these type of one-on-ones, real conversations that are not scripted, that don't need to sell anything or promote anything. It takes just one aha coming from one person that said, this discussion between Joanna and Nanette literally changed my life. And it also leads to something very real, which is, girls, go and do some testing. Go.
Yes.
Go to the doctor, do that colonoscopy, do that mammogram. Don't put everyone above yourself, because had it not been for that angel doctor and for the team and everyone, who knows, right? There's no coincidences in this life.
And it was so depressing for me when I first started. You got all of these support groups and all of these different groups. And I went to a couple of them, and there were so many people that were upset about their coverage, their medical coverage, and what they couldn't get, and how they couldn't get their supplies, and how they couldn't get the doctor to hear them, and they couldn't get this. And then you had some that couldn't even speak for themselves because they were older. And I always say that, well, I'll be 67 this year. And my thing is, if I'm 67 and I'm having a problem just opening up the medical bottle, what is somebody that is 80, 88, 89? What are they doing? So my thing is, speak up, tell them, say it, you know, what's the worst thing they could say to you? If you ask questions, ask. You don't understand, ask. If you don't know why, ask. Speak up for yourself, because we listen to the doctor give us all of this information, And sometimes we get home and we look at it and say, he said this, but I don't understand that. Write that down, because at your next appointment, you need to speak up. Advocate for yourself. A lot of times the doctors are given a book. They learn from a book and they go step by step according to what the book has given them. They don't know about your emotions. They don't know about how, okay, I took the medicine, I was feeling okay, but then all of a sudden I had a rush of perspiration. I felt a certain way. Well, that's stress. That has nothing to do with the medication, has nothing to do with the cancer. It had to do with stress. I felt overwhelmed. That's stress. Well, if you don't tell the doctor about that, he can't tell you why your blood pressure is up, and now he's giving you a new medication for blood pressure, but you don't need medication for blood pressure. You need a moment to just woosah. You just need a moment to sit back and just relax.
It's interesting that in this country, as a first-generation immigrant from Romania, you would think you come to a country, right, that's like so evolved
that they would have
that.
this.
And then I go back to Romania, and in my small city, there are so many pharmacies that have all this homeopathic, holistic seeds and creams and all of this. And you think, wait, I last year I went back home and my daughter had something, she needed a CT scan. It was free. Of course, you pay through your taxes, and of course, the system is different. But you compare, and then when you go through things like myself and yourself, this past month, I was charged $400 by a naturopath. I spoke with her for about 40 minutes, and she prescribed progesterone and some other medicine. I Googled them, like, why is she prescribed? But the issue is that I did it. I did speak up, but I spoke up after I already ordered from it, and I was like, okay, I'm like, why am I? But I had the support. I actually ended up in the ER. I had a terrible. To Botox. I hadn't done Botox before. I was like, oh, let's do Botox. And my body is not used to medicine. I ended up in the ER. They thought I was having a heart attack. I didn't know what was happening to me. Long story short, she said, oh, this is, you have inflammation here. You might be perimenopausal. This, I'm going to do this. Without even checking my blood. And about a week or so into this, I'm like, I'm not taking this medicine. And I also took, I stood into my power and I said to reimburse my $400. I don't know how I should take progesterone. In the meantime, I had gotten some results from my doctor, from my physician. Not progesterone, it was not this. I knew this is some sort of an allergy. And I thought to myself, and I called her and I said, listen, how did you even come up with to the conclusion that you need to give me this? And her answer was just very, she was driving. She was just very nonchalant. And she said, oh, I've been doing this for 30 years.
That's not, but the thing about it is we're never all the same. That's number one. We're never all the same. We're all different. So take the time to see who I am. Take the time to look at my condition. For example, like you said, I had colon cancer, and the doctor kept saying, he said, well, it was supposed to. Now listen to this. It was supposed to go to either your kidneys or your liver. It went to my lungs. So when he said, I don't know how it went to your lungs because it's supposed to go to your kidney or your livers. So I'm saying to myself, well, good grief. Is it better that it went to the kidney or liver? Or is it better that it went to the lung? What are we doing here? Well, from the lung, it went back down to the pancreas. That's when they decided it's not traveling the way that it would normally travel. It's traveling through your blood. Well, then that means it could go anywhere. So now what do we do? But if I wasn't asking these definite questions of, well, that doesn't sound right to you, and you're the doctor, How do you think it sounds right to me to hear you say that you don't know how it did that? That you know what I mean? We got to get on a page where we're talking, where you're not sending me into Fearville and I'm not being hysterical with what you're saying as the result. We have to have that kind of communication. I now have it. I mean, I've been retired since 2018. I came here with cancer. So it's been now 6 years. So the doctors that I've been talking to over the 6 years, they well know that when she comes in, she's going to come in with a ton of questions. She's going to tell us, no, she doesn't want to do this. Or she's going to tell us, yeah, I'm advocating for me. In September, they couldn't find anything. And he said it, to our amazement, we don't know where we... It's just, to my amazement, I don't know what happened. Okay, I'll take that. So I do scans every 3 months. And the last scan showed a little spot or whatever. And he said, well, that's not even big enough to biopsy. Let's go a step further and do a different type scan. We did a different type scan. And by the time the scan got set up, the spot was gone. So
you have some really good protection and some really cool angelic
and
protection.
That's what I'm saying. There's a reason for it. There's a reason that someone needs to hear this. And the first time, I did not tell anybody, and it spread. When I started telling people, it started getting better. I'm not saying that that's a intervine, solution, but I know I was kept for a reason. And if that reason is to tell women and to tell men, just like you saw me, with my husband, you got to go to the doctor. You got to go and get things checked out, especially when you get older. Don't get set in the fact that you've got a cough or you've got, a little high blood or don't get settled in that. Don't let that be you. Don't let that be, if there's a way for you to feel better, especially to lower, and my whole concern is not cancer. It's health-wise. My whole concern is to lower the stress because stress is a silent killer.
Yeah, absolutely. So to go on the other side of the rainbow, what makes you happy every day?
What makes me happy every day is the ability to express myself, the ability to write. I write every day. The ability to write, and then the response that I get from people in conversation, or the response that I get from people that read what I write. I get a good feeling knowing that someone gained something, even if it's just an idea for them to think further, even if it's just an idea for them to explore further, even if it's an idea for them to start something new or to take a challenge. I get happiness in seeing that and them contacting me later on and saying, hey, you remember when you said this? I now am doing that, so I like that.
So in that, there is a lot of love that you've given yourself. And of course, your body reacted. But if you were to be able to pick from 3 attributes or characteristics that you love the most about yourself, what would those 3 be?
Determination. Willpower. And a bit of, I don't want to say that I'm a sucker for things, but I'm kind of soft, like I go for the underdog. My thing is if you're the underdog, maybe let me help you. Let me be of an assistance if I can. So that's and a lot of times that sometimes slaps you in the face because you give people help and you don't get anything in return. But I've taken up the line that my blessings come on the other side.
So do you think that many women that are overachievers fear success?
Yes. I think that there's fear in success because it's the unknown. It's the unknown. We don't know what's going to be required of us. what's going to be, and what level of success. When we say success, is it unsuccessful monetarily, or is it, spiritually? What kind of success are we seeking? Are we seeking well-rounded success? And that's all I would want. I wouldn't want something that gave me millions and millions of dollars and then I didn't have a good spirit, or I didn't have good people that would support me, because my attitude would have to change simply because I have these dollars. So yes, there's a certain element of fear that, well, okay, if I do this, what's going to happen? Or if I accept this, what's going to happen? We have that hesitation about us, and that hesitation sometimes causes us not to become successful, because we don't take that step. We don't take that, that what if, that what if factor tends to hold us.
And to end with something powerful, I can just say this. I've learned throughout my struggles to let myself cry and to take the time, because that grief and that moment is that's gonna follow you no matter where you try to hide. And if you have this shield that you think is protecting you from,
because you got to remember, the shield that you think is protecting you is the same shield that blocks everything that's good to come in.
And sometimes it takes going back to the base. And that's, I think, what a lot of women don't understand. So to me, I didn't necessarily, or many of the women, you don't need to ask for more, more. I want to have more money. I want to have more. Sometimes when you look in your heart, it's not about having more and being more, I don't know, well known or whatever. It's going back to that baby, but not only in spirit, where you were untouched by all of the worldly craziness and pressure and stress and people telling you, parents telling you who you have to be, what you have to be, how much money you gotta make, or you have to be married.
You'll never find what's in you. You'll never find what's in. And the other thing about that is we have to remember that our emotions, our physical, mental, emotion, and spiritual makes us. You can't please one part and don't please the other parts. Because like you said, when you get to that point where you're sitting alone and you're sitting in the mix of whatever it is that you've stirred, it's going to affect one of those parts. And if it affects your emotions, it's going to go to the heart, the spirit. And if it's too much, it's going to affect the mental. And if it's too much, it's going to affect the physical. You've got to be in line with all of those things, which means you got to be about self-awareness. You got to know who you are. You got to understand you are a being, and no one can take care of your being but you. You have to take care of that.
In my process, in my the process that I teach, it always starts with self-awareness. There's no week that we just deep dive into who you are.
That's right.
Why
you have to.
Where do you go? Why? We can go 7 levels deep. And sometimes, a lot of women start with this, I want this, and literally 2 conversations into the practice. Wait, we're talking about a completely different dream, a completely different thing. They start thinking they need guidance in one area. It's a completely different thing. It's very deep. It could be an energy blockage. And of course, down the route of, there are so many things that you.
And there's so many things. There's been people that have come to me, and I'm doing a course for aspiring writers. And the reason I'm doing the course, I've seen so many courses where they tell you, okay, you got to get the editing done, you got to get the publisher, you got to get an illustrator, you got to get this, you got to get that. Before you do all of that, to be a writer, you've got to be able to put pen to pad. You just got to be able to write the words. And a lot of them come and they want to write the words, but they're stuck because the peace that's within or the spirit that's within has not healed, or they have not come to the conclusion of what they really want to talk about. All of that needs to be done before you ask me what a book deal is. Before you ask me, where do I get an editor? The editor can't edit what you haven't written. So when the editor tells you that you've got to expound on something, and then you come back and say, I don't know what else to say, it's still in you. Especially if you've been through situations that you feel you need to write about. If this is what you want to write, I write fiction. I've only written one self-help book. And that book is not based on me. It's based on the circumstances. It's based on cancer and road rage and all kinds of things, but it's not based on me. I have not written a book about me because there's some areas about me that I don't know, that I'm still exploring, that I'm still learning who me is. So I tell them all the time, you need to know, as an inspiring writing, why or why not. Because some of that healing, you may need a coach. You may need to go to someone that you can communicate with on that level. Because you've got a lot. I had a girl that paid for half of her book to get done. We were doing sessions every week. I'm helping her write and I'm telling her how to formulate it and everything. She got to a part of her life and she said, I just can't talk about it. I said, that's why I told you in the beginning that this may have been the lead to a journal, not the lead to a novel that you want people in the world to read. You know, this is not, you may want to heal first. Forgive some of those people in your life. Get over some of those situations. Then come back and write it. Because right now, you're stuck.
Yes. And that's exactly the point. A lot of women, like I said, are just, and including myself, like the fear, the blockages, not really knowing. And then I can assure you, for all of us, or for all of you that are watching, when that moment comes,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is so
it's beautiful.
Peaceful.
And not only that, have you ever, I don't know if you have, but I know I have. I moved, like I said, I moved down here in 2018. We live in a home. And there's been times I'm trying to get plants. I'm trying to plant plants as a piece. There are times where I go through and I see the plants flourishing and I see how nice they're growing or whatever, and I get a resolve with that. I walk through the house, I get a resolve with that. I write, I get a resolve with that. We have to look for that part of the success. That's when you know you have success, when you can sit back and say, doesn't matter if I got money in my bank account, doesn't matter if I got clients that are calling, I have that peace. And knowing that I have that peace, I'm able to display peace.
We are at 44 minutes, Nanette. I think we need another round. I'll be calling you back. Thank you so much for being here.
You are so welcome.
I love this. Girls, I hope that at least one person on this planet is having a big aha moment and is feeling just like Nanette said, it's all good. It's all good. If you have that moment, I have achieved something extraordinary with this episode. And I know for a fact that this is going to live forever and ever there on YouTube. And I know that my daughter will listen to it one day. Because now she's 16, she'll be like, this is boring. Why am I? But one day she will listen to this and she will say, wow, what an amazing episode and what an amazing idea to create great content that inspires, empowers, and brings us as women together. So
it's
thank
important.
You again from
it's
the
important.
Bottom.
Yes.
It is important.
Take care. Take care. Yeah.
here. Take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.